This time we want to talk to you about several weird things about Medford in the area that you probably don't know, but you should know before you decide to move up here.
So the first one is you cannot pump your own gas. You absolutely have to let the gas station attendants at all of the local gas stations come to your car, pump your gas for you. If you get out and start to actually pump your own gas.
Cease and desist.
Yeah.
Step back into the vehicle, please.
It's fully illegal.
It's a whole thing. I've been told don't touch the pump, don't touch the pay area, back in the car.
And actually I think instead of saying gas station attendant, I think their real title is like propane gas technician or something like that. And so they kind of treat you as such. Like you are not to be trusted around any flammable liquids whatsoever. So don't get near that pump.
Well, we all have seen the guy like smoking a cigarette, getting ready to pump the gas or something, and you just want to get out of there. But I came from a different area where we pumped our gas. And so it took me probably a good 6 months to not get out of the car out of habit. But when winter hit and it was cold and there was like sleet happening, and that guy came up to my window and I just had to barely roll it down just a little bit to put the card out so I could stay warm. I was like, hell yes, I'm glad we can't pump our own gas.
Yeah.
Genius.
It's a lot better too, because if you're like me looking a hot mess or something, coming to the gas station, you don't want anyone to see me without eyebrows. It's a great thing. But then also in the summertime, it's nice too, because I don't want to get out there and sweat my face off and I just did my hair and all that. Like,
not gonna do it, definitely not. And in rural areas, there's an exception. You can be out a little further out of town and they probably do that because they can't staff those as easily, but it's a rare thing and I still wouldn't risk it. I would just sit out there for like 20 minutes and hopefully, somebody comes out to help. I don't know. Now I don't even know what to do with these pumps these days. We also, a good weird thing is we don't have sales tax. So you can go in and buy something and it's the price that it shows. Sounds like Europe. I always see on BuzzFeed people are talking about what's going on with tax in America. We do have a luxury tax if you're buying a car or something. So there's a tax on that, but not on regular sales tax.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. We have a lot of people that come in from neighboring states to save a boatload of money on things. Like they'll do huge Costco runs and just, pay like $1,000 all at once when that would have been, $1,200 in California.
I'm thinking side hustle. We can get a U-Haul. We just hook that thing up. We get a bunch of orders. Road trip. Yep, that definitely a good idea there.
But one of the things also to kind of offset that is we actually have a little bit higher income tax. That was one of the things that I noticed on one of my first paychecks here when I moved back from out of state. I was like, where did all of my money go? This is wild. But you get used to it, especially when you're thinking about offsetting that cost pretty much every day when you buy other things.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of talking about costs and weird expenses we have. We have the bottle deposit on any type of recyclable bottle. So you go to buy a 12-pack of soda or beer, aluminum cans have it. Maybe you're going on a trip and you're going to buy a big case of water or go to a soccer game or something. Every one of those bottles gets 10 cents tacked onto it. It's redeemable if you return those bottles and take them over to the recycling center. I kind of find it fun to feed the machine. It's kind of a slice of Americana. You never know who you're going to see in there. And I'm just standing there looking around, people watching and feeding my bottles back into it.
When I was young and we would do fundraising for cheerleading, that's one of the things that we would do. We'd go door to door and ask people for like their bags or boxes of cans. And then, we could go and redeem all of that. And I mean, that money would stack up quick. A lot of times, a whole truckload, it's $200 right there. Yeah,
absolutely. And, they do have a service where you put it in a special bag with a label and you take it there and they process it, but then they charge you some money. But, you're buying a 36-pack of water and it's an extra $3.60 above what it shows on the shelf. So something to keep in mind and kind of account for.
Another thing to know that's kind of weird that most people aren't used to is the local landscape is really dominated by a lot of different agriculture. And that's pretty common in a lot of different areas around here, whether it be grapes or hops. But one of the weird things that people aren't used to is that around here, it's mostly the marijuana farms, marijuana and hemp farms. And that is something that people are kind of startled by when they get here in late August and September, and they get out of their car, and you're literally hit with a wave of the smell of the harvest of the pot season.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a legitimate thing, and it's funny that you mentioned that people are kind of startled or taken aback by it, because the thing that is hard for me to wrap my head around is you're driving down the road and you're just looking at a massive farm of what appear to be pot plants. It's hemp, but it's acres and acres. We still have our wonderful pear orchards and vineyards and grapes and everything everywhere, but come September, come October, it is a legitimate aroma in the air, let's say. And that might bother some people. You tend to get used to it.
It's definitely noticeable. Some people have allergies to it. It doesn't seem to really affect them in like traditional allergies, but we have some people that have had to tour some of these farms, and it can get on your skin and get a little itchy and whatnot. Yep. But it's definitely noticeable.
And you definitely then just want to use maybe Google Maps, look at the satellite view if you're thinking of buying a property, and you can easily tell if your neighbor's got farms, cannabis farms or anything like that. So we can also help you decipher that if you're looking into moving to the area.
Well, and that's one thing to be very diligent about is try not to get lost around here, because if you go up the wrong driveway and it's, someone's private farm like that, they might be startled and you're startled. It could be a confrontation.
Yeah, you want to avoid that if you can. One thing that I think is kind of unusual and a little, it's certainly noticeable, is that even the smallest little towns, I live in a little town called Gold Hill. There's probably less than 2,000 people. Skate park. Every town has a skate park. Rogue River's got one, Grants Pass, Medford has a couple, you name it, there's a skate park, and they're usually pretty busy.
They're packed. Not only skate parks, but I've noticed, especially in Grants Pass, a huge BMX park just popped up. There's actually 2 of them, and they're always packed. There's a ton of people there, a lot of like families getting together. And then also there's a lot of dirt bike trails around here. And from time to time in the summer, you'll hear it kind of like buzzing in the background. Yeah. And you're like, what's that? But there's a lot of those kind of like bike outdoor activity parks.
Yeah, all around the area. And it's kind of funny, I'm not much of a skater, you might not have guessed that, but I am looking at these skate parks and it's like raining, and these people are out there just shredding, no helmets, no pads, little kids, sometimes people that might be a little borderline on whether they should be out there. And I'm just thinking of like all the future little Tony Hawks and name the next famous skater coming along, and maybe they're coming out of one of these little tiny towns.
I think Oregon as a whole has a big skate culture.
From moving from another area, I was used to kind of, I don't know if you'd call them traditional sports, but really popular sports, soccer, Little League, maybe some Pop Warner, softball, again, things that you see everywhere across the country, and a lot of kids are engaged in. First sport, sometimes it's soccer, and they're just running around. They're little bitty kids. If I move here, and that sport is wrestling, you got these little kids that are starting to train. They're doing all this, learning the moves, and they're like 5-6-year-old kids. It's pretty amazing to see that culture too.
Yeah, we have a ton of people on staff that will help with all of their wrestling coaching of their kids, and just kind of the neighbors doing that. Another big thing I think is field and track, and then also softball. When I was growing up out here, our ladies softball went, I think they competed for the world championships. They went to like China or something. Wow. And we were the like smallest rinky-dink school. Our graduating class was only 97 people. So to compete on that level, it was a pretty big deal. But that being said, track and field is huge out here too, with all the like Prefontaine doing all the running, things like that. That running out here is huge. And Nike up in Portland sponsors all of that.
University of Oregon, they host the NCAA track and field championships every year. Oregon State has a world-renowned wrestling program, and all of these kind of generate this culture here where people just that's the mainstay. That's what they're going to right away. Talk about learning discipline, learning how to be a good sport, how to win and lose properly. I think the wrestling probably teaches so much of that. And it's so fun whenever we talk to some of our coworkers that have kids that wrestle. You'll hear all about the tournaments and how exciting it was and how proud they were. And then sometimes you'll hear a story about my son, he didn't know how to take it, got taken down by a girl, got beat. And it's so funny because it's technique and it's, you know, maybe a little experience and things like that, but it's such a good sport for people to be engaged in and to learn. And it's kind of fun to see around.
I think the number one most weird thing is the Sasquatch culture out here. Everyone just believes through and through about Bigfoot. It's like a religious experience for some people. That everyone has a sighting. They all have a story. There's actually a Bigfoot trap. Did you know this?
Oh yeah, Applegate Lake.
Yep, up at the Applegate Lake. And so it's basically like a big steel, almost like an old-fashioned jail with bars and everything, and they're like ripped apart. And there's this whole story that goes along with it, that one day the owner went out there and it was just ripped apart, and he just basically figured that it was Bigfoot that got trapped in there.
It probably was. Who am I to say? But I've heard they maybe caught a bear at a time or two, that kind of thing. When I moved up here, it was just fascinating to me that as soon as you kind of meet people and get to know them a little, here comes their Sasquatch story. Mm-hmm. Here comes their sighting, and they were back on this road, and you know, the guy driving didn't see it, but I did, and that kind of thing. And it just fascinates me. I've already had an encounter.
Of course.
Yeah, it was late one night. I was up at Lost Creek camping, and you start hearing a noise. And I luckily had my camera available, and I started recording. Mm-hmm.
I think it's a Sasquatch. Oh my God, it's a Sasquatch. What are we gonna do? Oh my God, what can we do? Oh, it's just you.
Another thing you'll see, it's fully ingrained in the culture out here, because you'll drive around and off the side of the freeway, you'll see all these like shadow cutouts, and it's the Bigfoot walk where he's just like kind of cruising across the field. I think half the time that's probably what the sightings are, is it's just a wood cutout.
It's that for sure. And my favorite one I've seen here is truck tailgate, and they have the Sasquatch laying down and he's like petting a bunny, and it's creepy. But it's so hilarious. Funny. And the little stickers, like the stick family that people put on their cars, Sasquatch, all the time. Sasquatch, my favorite thing I've seen in the last couple of years was Sasquatch, world's greatest social distancer. I mean, come on, is he not? Fair. He is fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
He understood the assignment.
Yeah, 100%. So those are some of the kind of fun and weird things that you might want to know about this area and about Southern Oregon if you're thinking about moving here.
If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. If you're thinking about Southern Oregon as your new home, give us a call at 541-292-4444.
Rockwell Group at eXp Realty can help you find any kind of property, but we might not be able to help you find a Sasquatch.